In previous lessons, we have learned two kinds of attitudinal problems: ethnocentrism and stereotyping. In this lesson, we'll talk about a third attitudinal barrier in intercultural communications. It is prejudice. Prejudice refers to the irrational dislike, suspicion, or hatred of a particular group, race, religion, or sexual orientation. Prejudice involves an unfair, biased, or intolerant attitude towards another group of people or an individual from the group. Have you ever heard of any prejudiced statements? You can share them with us in the discussion board. Now, let's come back to Wang Xin's story. If Wang Xin thought of American people as being indifferent to Chinese people's hospitality, he would feel discontent with American people and believe that they are not worth making friends with, and accordingly be very likely to stay away from Americans or refuse to communicate with them. In this case, which do you think is the stereotype? Which is prejudice? What about discrimination? As we can see, stereotyping is a cognition, while prejudice is an attitude, which is readily applied to communicative behaviors. If Wang Xin develops a negative stereotype of Jerry and all the American people, like this: American people are indifferent to others' hospitality. And then he would form such a prejudice: I don't like American people and they are not worth making friends with. Therefore, he would generate a discrimination. He would exclude them from his life cycle. From Wang Xin's experience, we can draw a conclusion that prejudice, like stereotype, is acquired. It is precedent or a prejudgment based on previous decisions and experiences, which becomes unchangeable even when people are confronted with new experience or evidence, according to Gordon Allport. Prejudice is expressed mainly in 5 ways. First, it can be expressed through antilocution, which involves talking about a member of the target group in negative and stereotypic terms. Second, people act out prejudice when they avoid and/or withdraw from contact with the disliked group. Third, when discrimination is the expression of prejudice, the prejudiced person undertakes to exclude all members of the group in question from certain types of employment, residential housing, political rights, educational and recreational opportunities, churches, hospitals, or some other types of social institutions. Often, in case of discrimination, we observe ethnocentrism, stereotyping, and prejudice coming together in a type of fanaticism that completely obstructs any form of successful intercultural communication. Fourth, when prejudice moves to the next level of expression, we often see physical attacks. The fifth and most alarming form of prejudice is extermination. This expression of prejudice leads to acts of physical violence against the outgroup. Since prejudice has so many negative consequences, how can we kick it off to facilitate intercultural communications? First, we should accept that we have prejudice toward other people so as to be alert of prejudice by reflecting our own prejudiced attitude. Second, involve ourselves in communications with more people to improve the understanding of various cultures. Third, be very cautious about and avoid using language with a tint of prejudice or discrimination. Now, let's compare the inappropriate expressions and their appropriate versions. Using appropriate expressions can largely reduce the risk of being offensive in intercultural communication. Apart from the above mentioned, to sign up for some courses or training programs is another supplementary strategy to reduce prejudice and to foster intercultural interactions.